They thought I could be crushed. They thought I could be silenced. They thought shadows were weak. But my shadow? It became their fear. Their empire trembles quietly, and I am the one standing just behind the light. My name is Emily Vale, and once, I was invisible. Not because I wanted to be, but because everyone around me assumed I was powerless. I was born into a family of moguls and tycoons, a network of influence stretching across industries, politics, and high society. My father's empire was a fortress built on ambition, intimidation, and absolute control. And in that world, I was dismissed as a shadow, the daughter with little influence, no sway, and certainly no voice. Growing up, I watched them move like gods, every word spoken in boardrooms, every handshake a contract, every glance a declaration of dominance. I was Emily Vale, the quiet girl in the corner, the one tasked with fetching coffee, taking notes, never questioning, never acting, never daring to dream. But even shadows can observe. And observing, I learned their weaknesses. I learned who was greedy, who was corrupt, who was reckless. I learned how fragile empires appear when tested. It began with my father. He saw me as compliant, predictable, harmless. He didn't realize that power can be built in silence. While he hosted lavish gala events and signed billion-dollar deals, I studied everything he touched: contracts, mergers, subsidiaries. I memorized numbers, clauses, alliances, and backdoor deals. I understood the gears of the empire better than anyone else, because I wasn't blinded by arrogance. By 24, the first real betrayal came. My father dismissed a small division I had quietly been managing as an intern. "It's irrelevant," he said, tapping his gold-plated pen. "It doesn't matter. It's your mistake if it fails." I took a deep breath and let him laugh, let him dismiss me. But inside, a plan began to take shape. Years passed. I studied finance, corporate law, and psychology, building skills in secret, quietly amassing allies who trusted discretion. I invested in tech startups, legal loopholes, and discreet intelligence on rival companies. By the time anyone noticed, I was no longer a shadow, I was the shadow behind every decision that mattered. The empire began to falter first in public appearances. Executives noticed discrepancies, auditors uncovered mismanaged funds, partners grew wary of decisions that appeared arbitrary but were secretly manipulated. And always, behind the scenes, I was moving. No spotlight. No credit. Just quiet, precise influence that no one could trace back to me. My father called me in one morning. "Emily, what is happening? Why is the board questioning my decisions? Why are investors pulling out?" I smiled faintly. "You may have underestimated the complexity of your empire, father. Or perhaps you overestimated loyalty." He frowned, anger flickering in his eyes. "I don't understand." "You will," I said. I bought controlling shares in his smaller subsidiaries, turned critical assets into my own network, and aligned the board secretly with my directives. By the time anyone realized, the balance of power had shifted. My father no longer held absolute control, his own empire was being guided by someone he dismissed. When I finally revealed myself publicly, it was at the annual Vale conference, an event where my father had once introduced me as irrelevant, yet present. I stepped onto the stage. The room froze. Executives, media, family, all eyes on me. "My father taught me everything I know about influence," I began, voice steady and calm. But he underestimated one thing: what a shadow can do. Slides appeared on the screen behind me, assets I controlled, subsidiaries I had consolidated, deals I had brokered, all without a single public acknowledgement. Gasps filled the room. Board members whispered. And my father? He sat frozen, pale, realizing his own empire had been quietly redirected under my hand. I smiled. No shouting. No drama. Just precise, elegant authority. The empire that had once sought to keep me powerless was now at my command. The months that followed were quiet dominance. I appointed key leaders who respected me. I stabilized finances, strengthened partnerships, and implemented a vision that even the board feared to oppose. Executives who had once mocked me now deferred to my strategies. Competitors who laughed at my youth now reached out with proposals. And my father? He learned humility in silence, observing his legacy guided by the daughter he ignored. Occasionally, he would glance across the boardroom and catch my eyes, and for the first time, he understood, power is not about who's loudest in the room, but who moves unseen while the world believes they are still in control. Now, I walk through the halls of Vale Enterprises, every step deliberate, every word considered. I am Emily Vale, the one who was dismissed, the one underestimated, the shadow that terrifies empires. They thought they could break me. They thought I would vanish into insignificance. But shadows endure, grow, and sometimes, quietly, become unstoppable. And tonight, as I watch the city skyline from my office, lit with lights my empire now commands, I whisper softly to myself, power is never given. It is taken. And Emily Vale always takes what is hers.